Okay, so we're all drowning in news about the AI boom, right? How it's going to change literally everything. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going past all the hype, all the shiny demos, to look at the massive power structure that's being built right under our feet. This isn't just about technology. It's about the new empires of our time. This quote from OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is, well, it's kind of perfect. It says it all. Do you notice how extreme that is? It's either total, lights out annihilation for humanity, or we cure cancer. There's no middle ground. And that's not just some random comment. It's the heart of a very deliberately crafted story that, you'll see, benefits a very small group of people. And this gets us to what the research calls the AI savior myth. It's this idea that AI is so unbelievably powerful, it's either going to save us all or it's going to destroy us. But here's the thing. That binary choice, it's not really about reality. It's a powerful narrative tool. Just look at how these two sides of the coin work together. The promise of curing all diseases is weighed against the threat of existential risk. Solving climate change versus, and this is a real quote, summoning the demon. By framing everything in these epic, almost religious terms, AI leaders make what they're doing feel cosmically important. They're not just building apps, they're steering the very fate of humanity. And that's a pretty handy way to tell governments, hey, the stakes are way too high for you to meddle with this. So what's the point of all this? It's actually pretty simple. If you can convince people that you're either building utopia or holding back Armageddon, you can justify pretty much anything. It lets these companies position themselves as the only ones wise enough, the only responsible guardians of this godlike power. It's a message that says, don't regulate us, don't even question us. We're the only ones who can navigate this. It's a brilliant argument for total, unchecked control. All right, so what's actually happening behind this big mythological curtain? While we're all busy debating about sci-fi robot overlords, a much older kind of power is being locked down. A power that looks an awful lot like the empires of history. And that leads us to the core idea of this whole explainer, the empires of AI. Think of it as a metaphor for a very specific way of doing business. It's not about creating a product and selling it fairly. It's a model built on extracting resources, exploiting labor, and monopolizing knowledge on a global scale, and doing it all without a fair exchange. And this slide breaks down their playbook perfectly. First, you claim the resources, and that means our data, our art, our books, everything on the internet. It also means physical resources, like the huge amounts of land and fresh water their data centers need. Second, you exploit labor. This is everything from underpaid workers around the world who are clicking on images to train the AI, to the very goal of designing tools to automate millions of people out of their jobs. And third, you monopolize knowledge. By funding the vast majority of AI research, they get to set the agenda and decide what questions even get asked. And the end result is, well, it's a kind of gaslighting, really. They put forward this image of working for the good of all humanity, but as researchers have documented, they have a track record of shutting down and censoring studies that are inconvenient for their business goals. They control the story because they control the science. Okay, so that's the playbook in theory, but what does it look like in practice? Let's take a look at the company right at the center of this storm, OpenAI. That whole drama around its CEO a few months back, that wasn't just office politics. It was a really rare peek inside the power struggles happening behind the scenes. I'm sure you remember this. It was an absolutely wild 5 days. The board fires Sam Altman. Key leaders are seriously concerned. Then, something incredible happens. Almost the entire company threatens to quit unless he comes back. And just like that, poof, he's back in charge with a brand new board that's loyal to him. The coup failed, and the emperor was back on the throne. But why did it even happen? Well, according to reporting that talked to a ton of people involved, the board had just lost trust. They pointed to a few big things: a chaotic work environment, a habit of pitting different teams against each other, and some major disconnects between what he was saying and what was actually true. Like, remember the OpenAI startup fund? Turns out Altman personally controlled it, not the company. This wasn't about one little slip-up. It was a pattern that made the board feel he couldn't be trusted. And then there's this quote. It's from Ilya Sutskever, OpenAI's co-founder and, at the time, its chief scientist. And it is absolutely chilling. AGI means artificial general intelligence. That's the hypothetical, super smart AI of the future. So for the true believers inside OpenAI, this wasn't just a business problem. This was about who gets to control a technology that they think could literally break the world. The fact that Setzgever, one of the most respected minds in the field, was the one who led the charge against Altman, that tells you everything you need to know about how serious the concerns were. Okay, let's pull back from the boardroom drama for a second. Because this imperial model isn't just some abstract theory. It has real, tangible consequences that we are all paying for right now, today, whether you've ever used an AI chatbot or not. First off, let's talk about the environmental price tag. Training these giant AI models takes an absolutely insane amount of electricity. We're talking about a single data center using as much power as a whole city. They guzzle millions of gallons of fresh water, often setting up shop in communities that are already dealing with droughts. And in some places, they were literally building new fossil fuel power plants just to keep these things running, spewing pollution into the air. And what about our careers? This chart here, based on a recent industry report, shows a really scary trend. You can see the highest disruption is happening to entry-level jobs, the first rung on the career ladder. Those early career tasks people used to do to learn and grow are being automated away. It basically breaks the career ladder, making it so much harder for the next generation to get started and move up. And that leads to this really cruel irony. One of the jobs that is growing is called data annotation, basically the invisible human workforce that trains AI. And here's the twist. A lot of the people doing this work were laid off from jobs that were automated by AI. So they're now stuck in this precarious cycle, teaching the machine the very skills that cost them their career in the first place. So, is this just how it has to be? Are we just stuck with these giant, resource-hungry empires? No, not at all. The research suggests a totally different way of thinking about AI. And it uses this really simple but brilliant metaphor: rockets versus bicycles. Okay, check this out. On one side, you've got the rocket. That's the huge do-everything models like ChatGPT. They have a massive energy and data cost, and their goal is often to replace what humans do. But on the other side, you have the bicycle. These are smaller, specialized AIs designed to solve one specific problem really well. Think of something like AlphaFold, which is revolutionizing drug discovery. Bicycles are efficient, they use way less energy, and they're built to augment human experts, to make them better, not to replace them. And this, right here, is the most important takeaway of all. This whole argument isn't anti-technology. It's not about being an AI Luddite. It's anti-empire. It's a critique of a specific, extractive way of doing business, a model that these companies chose to build, not one that was inevitable. We can have the good stuff from AI without all these imperial costs. And you know what? People are already pushing back. Communities are protesting the environmental damage from new data centers. Artists and writers are taking these companies to court for stealing their work to train models. People are demanding real regulation and democratic oversight. The point isn't to stop progress. It's to stop what these companies call their flawless transition to complete dominance. It's about taking back some control. So we'll leave you with this question. These empires, they aren't magic. They're not self-sustaining. They are built on our collective stuff, our data, our energy, our water, and maybe most importantly, our quiet acceptance. The future they're rushing to build requires our participation, or at the very least, our silence. So the question for all of us is, what are we going to choose to give them?